Hi everyone, I'm Joey. Now, torsion boxes have been around for ages, and I've never really put the fact that you could make torsion box and furniture together. It just hasn't really computed in my brain before, and after seeing some of the work by Nathan Day furniture makers in Australia, where they're making these massive 4-5 meter long dining tables in this kind of style, that really made me want to have a go. And this is what this is. So I'm not trying to rip anyone off with design, I'm just trying to have a go and see how it works. And stick around at the end and you'll see some of the things I should have done, could have done better, etc. Some lessons learnt. Now, a little bit of context. I'm locked down here in Auckland. Well, I was while I made this, and so I'm stuck with what I have in my workshop. That is one big piece of Purple Heart. After working with Purple Heart in this way, I wouldn't ever choose to do it again. Any other type of wood would be fine. Now also someone's going to say something about the price of the Purple Heart. For whatever reason, it's not that expensive here. The one piece of Purple Heart I used for this job today would cost about $340. When I got the piece of wood about 2 years ago, maybe it was, it cost about $200. So it's not outrageous price here. I don't know why. So it is what it is. I can't do much about that. Otherwise, stick around and then we'll talk about it afterwards. So I was aiming for the tabletop to be 60mm thick finished, so I ripped a bunch of 50mm strips of plywood, assuming for 5mm veneers on the top and bottom. I could work out my placements, and using a dado blade, I could make all the cuts for the halving joints for the torsion box inner, which actually worked out pretty damn easy. The torsion box went together pretty easily. There's a little bit of finagling to get this first piece to line up, and after that each piece went in relatively painlessly. I added some solid Purple Heart blocks in each corner, and this will be what the legs attach to further down the road. Right, next to cut the giant piece of Purple Heart that I have, it is a piece of 250 by 100, and it's not super straight, but not too bad. So there's just enough material in here to get my 4 legs out of and cut the veneers for the top and bottom of the top. So I had to straighten it out a little using a little sled. It wasn't too bad, and the only problem really is that this piece weighs a ton, so it's just very difficult to move around. From there I could straighten it up, cut a parallel face, and work out how to go about cutting veneers off it. So I found the biggest blade I had for my bandsaw. It looks old-ish, it's got a little bit of surface rust on it, but it hasn't done that much work. But it pretty much felt like I was trying to cut through this with a butter knife, because man, this wood is hard, and it took me a long time to get these veneers cut. Probably the better part of a day, I spent on this, cutting 8 veneers. Man, you can just hear the amount of tear out that's happening in that planer. Jeez. So luckily I left a little so I could carry on and go into the thicknesser. So I still had to take about 1 mil or 2 mil off maybe. And that took quite a while. The purple heart does sand quite nicely. It just takes a little while. Okay, so I think I have a plan. This is my bottom veneer. You can see I've traced out the pattern of the torsion box because I don't want to glue the whole lot, which would be an easier solution. Mainly the problem there is that I've just mixed up my glue, which is plastic resin glue, and I don't think, well, I've probably only just got enough glue. I'm not sure, but that's all I have right now. And because Auckland City is locked down at the moment, I can't get any more. So this is what I've got. So I'm going to try and film as much of this glue up as I can, but we'll see. What the plan is to glue this, put the torsion box on, lay up the veneers on the top, and then sandwich it down to my workbench, which is a torsion box, and glue both sides at the same time, and let's see if it works. Alright, it's all clamped up. Wasn't too stressful in the end. You'll see these little orange packers in the middle of these kind of strong backs, and that's just to provide pressure into the middle of the panel, and the sides are clamped so you actually end up bending the strong backs, which is kind of the whole point, to provide some extra down force. But these little packers really help to push down in the middle of a wide panel. Alternatively, I suppose you could drive wedges in, but you end up pushing your strong backs to the side. It's a bit annoying. So now I just have to wait till tomorrow for this all to dry. I suppose I can get on with making the legs. Okay, there's a couple of ways I can go about veneering the edge. I could just flush trim my veneers down to the torsion box and then throw my veneers on, and they're all going to be 5mm thick, and you're going to see a 5mm edge. Or I guess I could put veneers in there and then flush trim down to the veneer, and again you're going to see 5mm edge. What I'd like to do is hide the joint as much as possible, so when I put a small round over on the corner, all the joins are going to disappear. So I've got this set here of bearing guide, or these are bearing expansion packs for this rebate cutter, whatever you want to call it, router bit. Now the problem with these is that these kind of bearing expansions only get smaller than the cutter. And what I want is the bearing to be bigger than the cutter. So I've found this bit that used to just be a flush trim bit, and I can use one of these bearing expanders and kind of jerry rig it onto there. So that means my cutter is 3 mil smaller than the bearing. So when I run this along here, I'm going to end up with my veneers consistently sticking past my torsion box by 3 mil. With the tabletop mostly ready, I cut some strips of Purple Heart and am rebating the 5 mil edge veneers to fit inside and around the edge of the table. I thought it would be fun to try and put end grained veneers on the end of the table, and it would kind of look like 4 big planks. These are super delicate to work with, but it did work in the end. I was really impressed with my first go at it. With the edge veneers glued on and all sanded back roughly, it was time to start thinking about how to attach the legs. I think years ago I tried some Maloof joinery and I really don't recall it, but I thought I'd give it a proper crack here. And yeah, it's really an interesting type of joint. It takes a little bit of thinking, but once you get your head around what's going on, it's really actually very simple. First go here was just slightly tight, so I could just shift the fence on my saw a very small amount and then come back and give it another crack. So the last real job here is to clean up the top, and there's a few issues. There's some tear out, there's some lipping between two different planks, and I'm very cautious about using a regular plane. So I've broken out my granddad's old 112. Just watched a quick refresher video about how to set it up. I think I've got it going pretty good. Essentially it's just a big scraper plane, and let's see if it goes. Okay, we're making shavings, so that's a start. Okay, well, I'll be here for the next couple of hours. Right, you can see I've masked off the end grain because especially whenever you mix black glue up, the black just sucked into the end grain, and it's very difficult to, almost impossible to sand out the black because it just gets sucked in. It's not so bad on a straight grain, you can pretty much sand it out like anything else. So I'm just using epoxy with black oxide. Yeah, I think just keep going, doesn't it? There we go. Maybe hold fire there. I just want to make sure that all the legs are square. And then it looks like it's doing something there. You've got squeeze out.
Bubbles and shit come out this one.
Yep. Yeah, there's squeeze out everywhere, which is good. So it's time for the first coat of clear. I'm using Meritone. It's a professional grade water-based polyurethane. It dries very quickly, and in the conditions I had was drying probably a bit too quick, but anyway, between coats we could get a good nice dusty sanding, which is what you are looking for when you're sanding a clear coat. You want all that nice dust to show up. Otherwise I just threw a few more coats on after that and she was done. Okay, thanks for sticking around to this point. So let's talk a little bit about the rubbish truck outside my window. So, what did I learn about making this up? Well, first and foremost, I learned that this form of torsion box design is super strong. This table is so strong. I'm definitely going to use it, and I'm definitely going to suggest this kind of construction to my clients. One, because it saves on timber, and at the moment timber prices are through the roof, and so anything we can do to turn one plank into four planks is a good thing, and it's going to cut down on costs that way. The other thing is that it really does away with obviously the need for stretches and things like that. And this day and age, it seems to be more and more common to want that look of a clean look, and this is about as clean as you can get. And I'm really impressed with the way it's gone together. The leg joinery, I was a bit iffy about whether there's enough strength for that maloof joint to work. I think perhaps the Purple Heart being so hard has helped me in that cause, but the legs are definitely on there. I mean, they're as strong as any leg I've put on any table. I'm really impressed with how that went. I actually thought when I started this that I was kind of dreading making the torsion box, because I thought that would be the longest part and that would be the hardest part to do with all those halving joints. But I did that whole thing in probably an hour and a half with filming time, and that was so easy. I'm not going to be deterred by that. The fact that I had the dado blade that I can set up, that I think is really the only way to do that quickly. So what are the things I'm not so happy about? Well, the Purple Heart itself caused me some problems. There's bits where I've had some tear out, explode out off some of the edge when I was trimming the edge veneers. There is tear out in the top itself, which I've been able to mostly get out. I mean, I've learned a lot about working with Purple Heart in that it doesn't like to plane at all. It really doesn't even like to be scraped with a scraper. It sands quite well and it cuts with a blade quite well, but not a planer blade. If you actually use a cutting tool, it's pretty good. As long as things are pretty sharp. When I was scraping it, I would go maybe 6 passes with the scraper and it would be dull. I'd have to go resharpen it and come back, and it just got old really quick. Whereas the sander actually, even though the sanding discs wore out quite quickly, it was more aggressive than anything else, and I found that the best option with the Purple Heart. I would definitely almost certainly not do it again with Purple Heart. It's just too difficult to work with. Something like ash or walnut would be great. Cherry would be awesome with. So other things I didn't quite like, because I'm in lockdown, I had to use water-based polyurethane because that's all I had. And I know because of the grain structure of the Purple Heart, it would have been so much nicer to have a hard wax oil, something like Osmo. It would have felt so much nicer, and because it sands so smooth, and as good as you are with the polyurethane, it's not going to be as smooth as an oil finish. Anyway, it's still pretty good. The other thing, I was not really sure what happened. The joinery on the legs was dead tight before I glued it up. And then after glue up, the glue lines seem so obnoxious and in your face. And part of it is possibly because I used black glue, but that is knowing that the color is going to darken significantly. And that's something I wanted to talk about as well, is that the color, I don't really want a bright purple table, although this isn't as bright as I've seen Purple Heart go. From here it's only going to get darker, and I'll show you a reference now of the color I would like it to get to, and it will eventually. It just needs some more time in the sun. So that's it, that's my experiment. I've learned a lot. I hope you maybe learned something along the way, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.